big day, right? Today is June 10th. And this morning, we had the very first ever Tesla Model Y Robo Taxi. No one in the driver's seat was spotted testing on public roads in Austin. And the word Robotaxi wordmark logo was on the side of the road. And Elon Musk and Ashok Swami and a bunch of other team members all weighed in. First, Elon said, beautiful, simple design. He also said, these are unmodified Tesla cars coming straight from the factory, meaning that every Tesla coming out of our factories is capable of unsupervised self-driving. Stuart Zuckerman asked him, what software version do these cars have? And he said, it's a new version of software, but will merge to the main branch soon. We have a more advanced model in alpha stage that has 4 times the parameters, but still requires a lot of polishing. That's probably ready for deployment in a few months. Omar asked the question, does a Robotaxi software have the 3 times larger model compared to the 13.2.9? And Elon replied saying the 4.5 times increase in parameters should be ready for wide release later this year. Super frugal use of memory bandwidth, caching exactly what is needed and squeezing microseconds out of everything are needed to maintain the frame rate, and the whole system needs to be retrained. Boy, this seems like a big jump. Dave Lee posted saying he thinks that there's a high likelihood, in my opinion, that Tesla signs an FSE licensing deal with at least one automaker by the end of this year. Elon kind of said, he said the automakers keep being told that this isn't real or that just buying some hardware from NVIDIA will solve it. As Tesla robotaxis become widespread and their other solutions don't work, they will naturally turn to us. And Ashok Swami, in charge of the program, he wrote a really nice tweet. He said, slowly at first, then ... Let's start with you, Alexandra. You were emotional today. Why is today such a big deal?
Well, you summed it up really well. And I think everybody here can feel what an emotional moment it is. I mean, we've all been to hell and back many times over the last 5, 6, 7 years since Autonomy Day. And and we know what's going to come. And we know this today is not, the only event, but it is a clear starting moment. And so it's really good to cherish these moments. I mean, with my old age has come the conviction that when you have these moments, you have to live them. There is no point, just rushing on with your life. Cherish them and live them out. So this moment reminds me a lot of those moments when you leave your child for the first time in school, or when you attend the premiere when they're doing a play, a theater play or whatever, and they've been rehearsing for such a long time, and now you see your kid on stage and you're sort of just a proud parent. And it's just the beginning, and things can get difficult, and they will. I mean, there are lots of people that are against Tesla, and they will maneuver anything they can to. So be careful what's coming out in the next couple of days and weeks. And the potential is in no way, I'm glad we have stock trader here, reflected in the stock price yet. So because people will go and say, oh my gosh, but see, the price is only in the low 300s. But this is the beginning of the next curve of Tesla. After the ongoing EV curve and the ongoing energy curve, we have now the key launch moment of the autonomy curve. And of course, soon we'll have the beginning of the bot curve. So this is really a fundamental moment. And we'll see first important financial contributions from this all mid to end 2026. So that's 12 to 18 months, but it's really just around the corner. And Wall Street will get it as well. So we'll always remember this black Robotaxi tagged Model Y taking that corner in Austin. It will be in our visual memory forever now. And it may not look as spectacular as the booster landings in December 2015, but it's just as important. So here's to the future of Robotaxi, little child yet, with the aim to conquer the world. And most of us have a car, know that their car could be that Robotaxi. And anybody who wants to can buy one. So this is wild times. I've never been more proud to be an all-in Tesla investor. And I really, love the emotion of this day.
Well said, Alexandra. I like that very much. Jeff, come on up. Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, it was a great day. The commentary I would lean into is Elon specifically noting that these are production vehicles just untouched coming out of the factory. And the other thing I would say is, without just in general, when you're building any kind of product, the transformation costs, depending on the complexity of that transformation process, can be unbelievably excessive. So I know there's a lot of people that comment on the cost of a LiDAR or cost of a particular sensor and think that that's the end of it. But when you actually are accountable to build the product, there's the full unit economics of it. And no analyst has actually touched this in a way that that actually matters. And I give you a couple of examples. First off, just the remanufacturing cost. There are no vehicles that come out of production today that just go into the street and are able to drive point to point. And I don't think that that's very well understood by a lot of people. There's a remanufacturing process that occurs at very slow rates and at very high cost structure. But even if you put the remanufacturing process to the side, once you've bolted on all these things, whether it's a car, whether it's a phone, whether it's a vending machine, you name it. Now that this thing has all these things on it, it's got to be serviced. And then there has to be places to service it. And then there has to be places to charge it. And then then it has to be disassembled for service. And I don't think people really understand the fully loaded cost of what conventional technology out there is today and what Tesla actually did here over the last, call it 7 to 9 years. Now we're at vehicle number 1 or vehicle number 10 or a dozen, however you want to call it today. But it appears that they are going to have the leanest unit economics by an order of magnitude potentially, but by many X potentially. And they are going to scale in terms of number of vehicles by another order of magnitude faster than anybody has done before. And then when you multiply those two factors together, which is the many factorial reduction in unit economics times the speed or the scale of the ramp up, you're going to get something very special from a return on investment perspective. And that's, I mean, this is the reason why I see all these conversations about, like, you know, what did Tesla build in Kazakhstan in May? And they have 170x multiple. So if they had a 10x multiple, I understand how many cars did they build in week 2 or sell in week 2 in Kazakhstan in May. But they have a 170x multiple. And that multiple is coming from what you saw today and its ability to get the scale. So it's obviously running way ahead of it. But, and this is why I just think the conversations are so misguided, but I think it's now all coming together. I just wanted to comment. I think the economics and the scale are going to be unmatched. Tesla has to execute, and they sound very confident, but they still have to execute. But it looks very promising. It looks deserved of a very high multiple that they'll grow into. And it looks like something that could scale for their business, for other businesses, and then eventually into humanoids. But, we're at the beginning. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, it was what Ashok said, right? Ashok said slowly first, and then ... Here's what the other team members said. Phil Dwan, he said, it's just a small step today. In hindsight, it will be the inflection point. Deval Shroff said, this is the most important and only thing that matters when referring to Elon's comment that these are unmodified Tesla cars coming straight from the factory. Kalina Brown, she said, was wondering when this would hit social media. So that kind of gives you the hint that this has already been happening. And it was the first time somebody actually spotted one going. Shurhari Sampath Kumar said, a tremendous amount of testing is underway to ensure a safe and slow rollout in the beginning. The future is going to be wild. Tesla account themselves that this is the same car you can currently buy, by the way. Omar, you had a conversation with Elon about the kind of software that these cars can do and what's going to come in the future. What's your thinking about that?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Herbert. Pretty exciting to see the first Tesla operating on driverless on public roads without a driver. It's, I think, one baby step in a series of baby steps. We, of course, haven't started giving rides to riders yet. I expect, Tesla employees probably have access at this point. If not, they probably will get access in the next couple of days. And later in the month, I think they'll expand to people without outside the company and eventually open to the public. So you can see from some of the employees' comments, they want to do a safe and slow rollout here. They're really kind of dipping their toes in the water, but obviously this is really significant. I think it's potentially historic to demonstrate that you can actually operate a driverless car on public roads safely using just computer vision. Many people have told us for years and years that this is impossible and this would never happen. And we're going to see it happening in front of our eyes more and more in the future and even today. So, a lot of people say, well, Waymo already does self driving. So who cares if Tesla can do self driving? There's a lot of newness here, things that we've never seen before, things that I think are going to be important milestones in the history of self driving. What you're seeing here today is the first time you have a driverless car that is in mass production. And not just in mass production, it's actually the highest volume car model on Earth. So when you look at the process of how they make Waymo, there are about 1,500 Waymos. Waymo's been around for 16 years. They have about 1,500 cars right now. And they have to actually buy a Jaguar I-Pace, ship it over to Mesa, Arizona, start taking it apart, put the sensors on, validate it. They have capacity to do this for maybe a few thousand cars a year. And to make things more complicated, Jaguar actually stopped producing the I-Pace. So they've now taken their last delivery. They have about 2,000 more Jaguar I-Paces waiting to be retrofitted. That's all they're going to be able to do without making a changeover to a new vehicle platform and sensor suite like the Zeekr RT with the 6th generation Waymo driver, which is going to take some time to do. So what you're seeing on the Waymo side is amazing safety, amazing performance, but from a production perspective, it's complicated, it's convoluted, it's expensive, it's high cost. We really don't even have enough LiDARs to make millions of cars a year in the first place. And there's just bottlenecks in terms of putting millions of these cars on the road and scaling across the world. So the fact that this is just an ordinary car out of the factory, that's really significant. And later this month, you're going to see them actually do a delivery where a car gets produced at the Austin Gigafactory, drives itself out of the factory parking lot, and then delivers itself to a customer. This is going to be the first time you have personally owned autonomous vehicles. Not just a service you can call, but somebody who lives in Austin could actually go on their phone and say, hey, go drive to my sister's house and pick up my kid and then come back here. Things like that have never been done before. Having this in a car you can buy, a car that's in mass production, a peer vision system, it's never been done before. So this is a historic inflection point in the story of how self-driving cars scale. And I think as people see this more and more, they're going to start to understand the Tesla story. So yeah, really exciting to see this video and excited for what comes next.
Yeah. It is historic. So we have so many great speakers on the panel here. Why don't we just open it up? Whoever wants to say something, let's have a conversation. Let's have a party.
Yeah, I'm going to take a more aggressive take on this.
Aggressive? What?
I think this is an insane moment.
Oh,
I did not expect them. When I heard they were testing in Austin, I did not expect them to be testing off of South Congress. I mean, I live in Dallas, 2 hours away from Austin. I've been to Austin many times. That is a very crowded road that has walking college students on it constantly. They're running across the street at times. These are college students, okay? You hit somebody's 19-year-old little girl who's going to University of Texas, they're going to sue the shit out of the company, and Tesla knows that. Okay. And still they chose to deploy it there. That, for anyone who knows the Austin area, is notable. So that's point one. Point two is I get frustrated that people, and this I actually get frustrated about about the autonomy conversation in general, that people view this as just an Uber counterpart. What Tesla is attempting to demonstrate here is that a vision-based system is capable of autonomous operation, period. Right? First, they're going to prove it with cars. It's obviously leg one. But, at scale, that means that every vehicle on Earth, every boat, every piece of machinery, every pickup truck, every 18-wheeler, every car can operate autonomously in theory. That's what that means. Now, is there infrastructure scaling, probably things that need to be solved in terms of other terrains, like operating a boat autonomously, for example? Yeah, there's probably some hurdles that need to be crossed from a training standpoint between now and then. But I mean, look, they've been testing it in Austin for weeks. If they've been testing it on South Congress for weeks, that's very impressive if they've done so without incident. And if we find out at the stage of deployment of this program, whether that's a month from now or whenever, I agree with Omar that it's probably going to be a gradual rollout, employees first, and then limited audience, and then eventually public audience. But even if it's done on a minimal scale without incident, like I'm talking about 20 vehicles without incident for a 3-month period, that just spitballing, but let's use that as a benchmark. That's fine for me as burden proof. Like I don't need more burden of proof than that. If you can operate vehicles autonomously in the full Austin area with a vision-based system, without incident, with no driver in the car for a quarter, even if you're doing 1/20th the rides that Waymo's doing in a similar geography, it doesn't matter. You break the model instantly. Because as people noticed, there's no LiDAR attachments on that car. Okay, and that was another thing that people were speculating because of a lot of these Teslas that have been spotted over the course of the last several years with LiDAR that they were using for other purposes. People are like, oh, eventually they're just going to put it on the cars. They're going to realize they need it. If they really don't need it, and what Elon is saying is that this came straight from the factory, was not modified at all. Again, I'm taking Elon's comments at face value. There's people out there that are be like, oh, he's lying. I mean, I'm not that kind of person. I just take people at face value until they're proven wrong. I'm taking them at face value when he's saying it came out of the factory unmodified. If that's true, and this program goes without incident for a quarter, you break the whole industry instantly. Every LiDAR maker in the world that is supplying to automakers sees their revenue drop off a cliff by 30 to 40% overnight. You see a complete pivot in the industry. I'm not going to get ahead of myself here because, again, referring to Omar's earlier comments, or at least the part I heard, I didn't hear all of his comments, but I agree that it's going to be incremental, and this is the first step of many. Okay, it doesn't mean millions of Robotaxi rides start tomorrow, but if we're willing to extrapolate here and think out, there could be a moment where what happened in 2019 and 2020, where the entire global automotive industry pivoted to electric vehicles in this sort of awkward orchestrated dance over the course of 4 months, and you saw $20 billion investment announcements from GM to Mercedes saying, we're going full electric by 2030. Everyone was saying that, right? It was like a 3-month period where that happened, where everyone saw what was happening with Tesla's market cap, how the stock was moving, how EV growth was expanding globally, and they all wanted to pivot in unison. There is a shot that happens within the next 3 years as a consequence of this, where these guys who thought that LiDAR-based systems were the way to go realize they have to pivot, and a lot of the companies that have been built on the premise that LiDAR was necessary to accomplish this objective will see valuations evaporate. And that's a lot of companies. You're talking about maybe 400 or 500 billion in global market capitalization that's in and around the LiDAR industry, maybe more. And again, if we can demonstrate that vision-based systems are capable of this, then there's actually also a military angle. I know Elon probably doesn't want to go there, but there's a military angle as well in which in a capacity in which LiDAR is used in the military, that vision-based systems may be able to used for instead. So I think this is an extraordinary demonstration, even though it's just a short clip and we don't know all the details yet. We don't know when the rollout's going to be. I think the fact that they were confident enough to deploy this where they deployed it, considering how many 18, 19, 20-year-old college students are just running around in that area, to me is a demonstration of confidence more than anything. I don't really care where it was going or how long the trip was. I think the idea that they're willing to deploy it there is a demonstration of confidence. And I think if the company is confident enough to make that demonstration, I think that's signal, not noise. So, yeah, I was very impressed by what I saw today.
Very, very surprising that you are a little bit more optimistic than you normally, because you normally aren't. You're much more conservative usually.
Well, I try to be even keel. I try to keep people's expectations sober. But I'm also a big fan of Elon and a big fan of technology in general. And so, I know an impending pivot point when I see one, and this feels like it's it. Awareness plays a huge role in technology trends. It's not just about the technology being better. It's about the technology being publicly accepted as better. And sometimes it takes awareness to accomplish that. And at times it takes awareness to accomplish the necessary regulatory allowance as well. And so both of those things, little moments like this are the inflection point for that sometimes. You look at the ChatGPT moment that happened a couple of years ago, machine learning, LLMs were a thing internally at these companies for many years. But it took that public moment of like turning it on the average person for them to go, oh my God, like this is incredible. Then we've seen what's happened to AI since that ChatGPT moment, and what's happened to the industry, both from an investment standpoint, a valuation standpoint, a public interest standpoint, a corporate interest standpoint. Everything follows that. And so awareness is the first stage in megatrends. It's the very first step. And
so, when is this going to happen? Because, some investors I'll ask the panel what you guys think on this, especially you, Alexandra. Gary Black just said today, right? So far, we can count Waymo, Zoox, Baidu, and Pony as they're already up and running with their driverless networks.
With LiDAR.
By the way, it doesn't matter, but BYD appears to be next. These guys are already doing a driverless network. So in their minds, that Tesla's just catching up. And so when would
it doesn't matter.
So where can I go ride a Zoox? Where can I go ride a BYD? Where can I go try any of these systems? There's only one system that's up, and it's Waymo. And if these guys could give a driverless ride safely, they would be doing it right now, right? They have all the permits they need. Their technology is not ready. So there's really two interesting players in this race, Waymo and Tesla. Waymo because they are the number one driverless service in the country right now. The others are basically Waymo clones. They're emulating Waymo's approach, but they're not as good as Waymo. So let's call them the Waymo copycats. Only Tesla is coming to the table with a dramatically different solution that has the potential to actually disrupt Waymo. So from my perspective, it's really a two-horse race at this point. And you were talking just a while ago about all the EV promises, right? Oh my God, we're going to move all to EV by 2030. We're going to be a full EV brand. We're going to be selling more EVs than Tesla in a few years, said Volkswagen. Then they ended up firing the guy because his attempt to emulate Tesla software failed so badly. So it's really easy to talk. It's really easy to say we're going to do autonomy. Actually doing it, well, let me tell you, it's even harder than making an EV. And they couldn't even do that. They backed off as soon as times got challenging, as soon as growth slowed. They said, you know what? Never mind. Forget about that promise to switch to EVs. So talk is cheap. There are very few companies that have actually been able to demonstrate this. And the companies that have been able to demonstrate this have only been able to do it with severe limitations. Okay, you can only go within this area. Hey, I live in Los Angeles. I want to go to Silver Lake. Well, you can't go there. Oh, I want to go north of Santa Monica Boulevard. I want to go to Sunset Boulevard. Well, you can't go there. Oh, can you take me to this restaurant? No, I can't. Let me actually drop you off 3 minutes away and you can walk the rest of the way, right? These are kind of the limitations on services today. I think this is not a space that has been commoditized yet. This is a space that's nascent. Now, fast forward, I think there probably will be several players that can offer autonomy. But like the major software platforms, Windows and Mac, iOS and Android, I expect network effects to coalesce among two or three top players, right? Because nobody really wants to get in the fifth safest self-driving car, right? So I think naturally you're going to coalesce towards a few big players who dominate the market, with the number one probably taking the lion's share.
I would also say that the bigger difference is that when Tesla is making a software update, can you hear me?
Yes. Keep
And
going.
that update isn't just for a few thousand vehicles. So even if a Waymo had improved their software and made an announcement for it, it's only for their network that they had to retrofit. And so when you see a update for Tesla and you see this on Robotaxi and Model Y, it's for everyone. And the biggest difference, I would say, I never understood why people compare the critics compare Waymo to Tesla, because it's a completely different business model, as noted as the speakers here already mentioned. Because for me, Tesla's foundation is built to become basically Turo, Waymo, overlapping with Uber's setup, and they make their own vehicles that you yourself as a private driver could put on the network, or Tesla themselves will put their own vehicles on. So it's like 3 or 4 companies put together, and they're building a platform basically for that. So we see that coming in the future. So it's a bigger, huge business model that you're attaching to the current business models of 44 or 5 other businesses with solar and mega packs and so forth, and the supercharging network. So I think this is a seismic difference and huge change that's happening, and we're just starting it. And I don't think people can understand the scope of how many businesses this is enveloping into one platform.
Yeah, to the point that you brought up, Herbert, about Gary brought up about these other competitors, that they're all lidar based systems, and that does matter because cost matters. Cost is like the greatest driver in competitive value, especially early in these industries. Okay, and no one, again, if what we take at face value of what Elon said today is true, no one can compete. If that's a Model Y out of the factory that retails, what's the base model retailing at right now, like 40 whatever, and the cogs on that is like what, I'm just spitballing the math here, but the cogs for Tesla on that Model Y is like 30 and a half K. Okay, that's ridiculous. Waymo's last gen of vehicles were 280 to 330K a pop. That's a 10x beat on cogs. Okay, and that breaks the whole model. Like, that breaks the game. The argument prior to this Tesla Robotaxi program was that the differentiation between Tesla and Waymo was that Tesla operates a non-geofenced approach, while Waymo operates a geofenced and lidar-based approach. Tesla's vision-based, wants it to be general purpose autonomy. Waymo's lidar-based, wants to map cities and operate in a regulated and pre-mapped environment. Waymo obviously has been more successful because it's an easier approach. It's an incremental approach, right? You're not solving this big, enormous global autonomy problem. And so, yeah, they've been more successful. You have to give that concession to them. They are the leading autonomy company in the world. But if this works and this operates in Austin without incident and doesn't kill anyone over the next quarter, you break Waymo's model. It breaks. They have to go back to the drawing board.
There's actually reasons why their model breaks that goes beyond the cost of the vehicle, and that is operational cost. Omar was talking about the network effects, and they're real, and they're going to be very important. But there's a huge disparity between Tesla going national and expanding rapidly, and a company like Waymo going national and expanding rapidly. And that is this. Tesla already has an automotive infrastructure nationwide. It has 220, roughly 220, maybe 218 service centers currently throughout the United States and Canada. It has another 230 other outlets of various types and several sales centers, many sales centers. The point is, it has an infrastructure such that expanding in any particular locale would be just an incremental process for them. For Waymo, the expansion is a whole different world. It is a very significant investment in people, real estate, technology, and operational, launching. And so Tesla is in this incredible position where their infrastructure already lends itself to operational expansion. In many, many cities, its expansion is already provided for. In some, it may have to expand existing infrastructure. That's a whole different ballgame from plopping down a management team and building an infrastructure from scratch. So the speed of rollout, once they get operational, is going to be dramatically faster, quite apart from the issue of not having to do digital maps of each and every locale, not having to limit, the territory in which the cars can drive in the new locales, and so on and so forth. So the network effect opportunity for Tesla in terms of rollout beggars the network opportunity for any of the other competitors once they get operational. And I would imagine that the time between now, the first car doing the test drive, and operational and being operational, I can't imagine it's going to be more than 3 to 6 months, at which point they'll be able to start expanding. And so I think the opportunity to become at least nationwide, if not global, is so much, is in such Tesla's favor that the network effects that they can achieve will rapidly eclipse that of any competitor, including Waymo.
Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, Stock Talk hit on an important point, which is the cost structure, but I think it kind of does people a disservice to explain it as just being cheaper, because, then people kind of come off with the impression like, oh, so you kind of cheaped out on something that could save my life because you were trying to save money. But what it actually isn't just cheaper, it's actually smarter. Because they're training a pure AI system that just looks directly at the camera. I mean, Waymo kind of programmed in all these road rules. They told it what to do, how to behave. For FSD, they just showed it a bunch of humans driving and said, connect the camera images to driving output. And there's all these subtleties. Like, you can see it when you ride in Tesla FSD versus a Waymo. FSD is smoother. It's more human-like. It picks up on all these little idiosyncrasies of human behavior in a way that's kind of like how a modern LLM is able to understand English. So that pure AI solution with the most massive self-driving data set ever assembled, the world's biggest data set of driving footage, driving scenarios, weird things. You've probably seen some of those clips they've posted online. The kind of driving situations a normal person only sees once in a lifetime. They see them all the time, right? And they've got them all in the training set. And because they have a sensor suite that's just cameras, they're able to include that on millions of cars. If you have a really extensive sensor suite, then because of the cost, the data set that you're training on is going to be smaller, right? Because the car, if you only have 1,500 cars versus 1,000,000 cars, the size of the data is going to be 1,000 times larger. So counterintuitively, we think self-driving is all about seeing, but it's really about that AI that you train by putting all this driving data into the model. And having a ton more data actually results in a model that's smarter, right? Like imagine if you went to hire a driver and they told you, I'm going to need $50,000 worth of lasers so I can make sure that I'm an appropriate distance from the car in front of me. You'd say, well, are you stupid? Just look at the car in front of you and don't hit it. So that's really what they have here. It's a much smarter AI than what we've seen on self-driving cars traditionally. I think people are going to notice it driving better, smoother, more human-like, and I think they're actually going to be able to achieve even higher safety, which is going to surprise a lot of people. And that's really because of the AI being smarter. And because it's smarter, it actually has less requirements. And that ends up simplifying the bill of materials as well.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.